Hey, greetings everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for today's session. My name is Jessica Brown. I am an Assistant Director of Admission here at the Fuqua School of Business, and I am joined by some fabulous panelists, and we're going to have a phenomenal and awesome conversation today about diversity here at Fuqua. I have 4 students joining me today, and they're going to introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about the organizations that they represent, and then we're going to have a nice, engaging, and intriguing conversation about diversity at Fuqua, the different types of organizations that are represented, how they're engaged in the community, and really just kind of tell you their stories as well about why they chose Duke, how they are active in the community, as well as any personal anecdotes or topics or suggestions of things that they think would be helpful for you guys. You will notice, if you have not already, that you do have the opportunity to submit questions to us real time as we're going through the session. So please feel free to do that. And we will get to those questions once we have completed the formal questions that I am going to ask my panelists. I definitely intend to pick their brains today so that you guys leave with some very helpful information. So again, thank you for joining us. I'm going to ask my panelists to introduce themselves, and I am going to start with Ciera, sitting beside me. And Ciera, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Ciera Hill. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. Went to Ohio State for undergrad, so go Bucks. And prior to coming to Fuqua, I was a human capital consultant at Ernst & Young for about 4.5 years. And used Fuqua to pivot into healthcare. So I'll be joining DaVita post MBA in the Atlanta area. And I'm representing Healthcare Club as well as BLMBAO.
I'm Chuck Wood. I kind of grew up all over the place. I'm a third generation Army brat, so there's no real hometown, I guess. But, I went to West Point for undergrad. I spent 7 years in the Army, and now I'm here at Fuqua. I'm representing DAFA, and I'm also an ally chair for FuquaPride as well.
Sure. I'm Allison Creedman, excited to be here with you guys. I'm originally from South Carolina. I went to University of Virginia for undergrad. And prior to Fuqua, I was living back in Charleston, South Carolina, doing corporate development M&A work at a family office. And then after Fuqua, I'll be working at Boston Consulting Group in Atlanta. And here at Fuqua, I'm involved with Association of Women in Business and also the Consulting Club as well.
Hello, I'm Stephen Seed. I'm originally from Wilmington, North Carolina, and did my undergrad at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, so right down the street. Before Fuqua, I was living in Washington, D.C., and working in affordable housing and community development, so in the nonprofit space. Came to business school to pivot into consulting, specifically human capital consulting, where I'll be going in after post-MBA at Accenture Strategy in Washington, D.C.
Awesome. Thank you all very much. So let's dive into a couple of questions that we have for you all. When you're thinking about grad programs, there's so many programs out there for you to consider in so many different schools. Tell our attendees today a little bit about how you determined that the MBA was the right degree for you.
I can talk about it a little bit. From my background being in the Army, I had no knowledge on how to read a balance sheet or what finance was. We had a budget, but that was just a number on a piece of paper to me. And so I really enjoyed a lot of the work that I had done, mentoring and working with foreign militaries in a very consulting-like role. And I realized my career was going to take me a little further away from those types of jobs. And so what I was left with was there's this job called consulting, but I don't have the skills that I need to enter. And so the MBA program was a really good fit for me in terms of I could learn the quantitative skills that I need and also kind of learn the business language and then apply that to, searching for a consulting job afterwards.
For me, thinking about the healthcare realm, you have a variety of different graduate degrees you can get, especially if you want to go into the provider side or healthcare operations. So I thought about getting my master's in public health. I thought about getting my master's in health care administration. But when I really thought about the long term, especially thinking about us being millennials and how we often change our mind, I thought the MBA would be the most suitable option in the event that long term down the road, I decided that I wanted to pursue other avenues. And so again, to his point, the idea of wanting to get a variety of a background, and then also thinking about the nature of the classroom as well. So if you go into one of those degrees that are a little bit more siloed, that kind of limits the amount of backgrounds that you may get. So being in a classroom with people, who were in the service, or people who came from education and operations, and hearing about, how they approach different problems and how they could be applicable to the industry I'm entering, I think made the learning experience a little bit more enriching.
Yeah, I can also speak to that question. So I mentioned I was kind of working in corporate development M&A work, but I was actually a religious studies major in college. So a lot of how I, kind of got into that job and, how I progressed there was a lot of learning on the job, kind of teaching myself a lot of things. So first of all, I thought an MBA was, of course, an opportunity to learn more about accounting, finance, marketing, all of those key areas. But for me, I felt like an MBA, first of all, had the greatest number of exit opportunities, such a wide range of things to go into. And second, I really like the focus on developing leadership skills and working within teams, which for me, looking long term, I want to be able to, really set the culture and manage a team well. So that was really important to me too.
And for me, like Allison, I was at a small organization. I was in affordable housing, so a lot of things was on the job learning, and I really got my MBA because I was thinking about the strategic thinking was really important to me. The work that we were doing, it seemed like we were putting out a lot of fires, and because I was in a nonprofit space, it's really about impacting people's lives, and I really wanted to scale that impact. And I knew that developing that mind frame, that you're really thinking strategically, you're not thinking what am I going to do today or this month, but you're thinking, okay, years down the line, how are we setting up our organization? Do I have all the skills across the board to really make the most impact in the future? And I really saw that MBA would be the best degree for me to gain those skills. And so that's why I decided to get my MBA.
Awesome. Well, clearly you guys made the right choice because you're now here at Fuqua. But there's so many programs for you to pick from that have, similar curriculum, maybe even a similar culture. But you had to dwindle it down and make a final decision about where you wanted to go. So can you tell us a little bit about, your research and your study? How did you engage with us in order for you to determine that Fuqua was the best place for you to have your MBA experience? And Stephen, I'm going to start with you in the back because I think you and Ciera had an interesting story.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that if we can.
Yeah, so I think that there are some real things that you should consider when you're selecting programs. Before before coming to Fuqua, I was part of MLT, which is Management Leadership for Tomorrow, and so that's a kind of MBA prep program, help you prepare to apply, and it's a really rigorous curriculum and helps you think through what these factors are and really rank what's important to you. So some really tactical things that I thought about was class size. I wanted somewhere that was small or to medium size so I could really get to know my classmates. I wanted to go to school in a smaller town to really focus on that experience, getting to know my classmates. And so there were factors like that, but then actually when I came to Minority Workshop here, every year Fuqua has the Duke MBA Minority Workshop for prospective students. And that is when I really experienced Team Fuqua. You probably, as a prospective student, you're going to hear a lot about Team Fuqua and Team Fuqua culture. And that means something different to everyone, but you get to have your own experience. And so when I came to Minority Workshop, it was I just felt a lot of love. There were more alumni that came back for that weekend than there were students here. And so that really shows how much they're going to alumni are going to drop what they're doing to try to shepherd in the next generation and really show that commitment to Fuqua. And so that one aspect, and then just meeting other prospective students. I met Ciera here at the workshop, and we had our own Team Fuqua situation where we kind of just helped each other out. She had her hands full trying to get a drink, and I was able to help her out.
We literally said hashtag Team Fuqua and then ended up here.
So that's the experience that we're always going to have together. But I mean, overall, coming here and just talking to to, since I was a nonprofit background, there's the Center for the Advancement of Social Entrepreneurship, one of the best social impact centers at an MBA program. So really being able to see myself here at Fuqua, and whatever I wanted to do at Fuqua was supported and had a really strong program here, was really kind of sealed the deal for me.
Awesome. Allison, how about you?
Sure. So kind of hitting on, what Stephen was talking about. So I came for the Duke MBA Weekend for Women before I applied. It was I guess it was back in maybe October, November, right before I was applying round one. So this was really my first visit ever to a business school program. So during that weekend, of course, I had done my research ahead of time, but I think there's only so much you can really learn about a school from a website or looking at rankings and all that kind of stuff. But to really be able to be here for, I guess it was almost 2 full days, and get to know so many different, especially women involved with the Association of Women in Business, but across the entire school, just seeing how all of that programming came together. It's like mock class visits, different kind of career talks, different social events to get to know people. For me, it felt like, I think Fuqua really hit all of the basic things I was looking for. So as far as strong academics, such a wide variety of different career options, a lot of things I was looking for. But at the end of the day, I realized that for me, coming to Fuqua is more about being surrounded by people that I felt that I respected and wanted to be influenced by, and wanted to be challenged by really for the next 2 years.
Awesome. So when you think about the experiences that you've had now in your MBA, with the community, with the culture, with the curriculum, even things that you're doing outside of Fuqua, whether it's Durham or some nice international experiences that our students tend to have as well. What advice would you give someone who's considering applying to an MBA program? Any learning lessons from your experience or things that you would recommend or advise that they do if they're still in that ready to hit submit button phase, but still not quite sure?
So, from my perspective, if you have a connection to one of the affinity groups, that's a really great way to kind of really kind of figure out if you have a real connection with the school and if you have a good connection with the students and the type of people that are at the school. I know for me, DAFA was super helpful. I reach out to them, setting up phone calls and really getting to know the people that go to the school. For me, I thought about it in terms of I can learn math on the internet, right? That's not what I'm going to pay this money for, right? It's the experience of the team and who's on that team. And so I think that reaching out to the affinity group that you're associated with and scheduling a phone call can really be a great way to figure out is this the right place for me.
Awesome. So one thing that we hear all the time, I've heard it mentioned so many times during our conversation already, but even as the director and traveling on the road and giving presentations, we always talk about Team Fuqua. We hear that a lot. It's constant. You can't talk about the Duke MBA without talking about Team Fuqua. And it is a clear representation of our culture and our community. And it's not just a name, but it actually is something that we believe in very strongly. If you had to describe what that is for you, how would you describe the culture? How would you define Team Fuqua for yourself?
Should have the cameras rolling before we started. We were having a good time. I think I think at any of the programs, there's going to be stress, and you're signing up for a difficult kind of course. You've got to get ramped up within 4 months, basically, before you start interviewing for jobs. And I think that being a part of Team Fuqua, what it's really meant to me is that that's never something I had to worry about. My friends are always going to be there for me. I have a support system, and it just removes a lot of the outside stress from the situation. And I can really just focus on, learning, whether it's from my classmates or from the professors in class. That it really allowed me to focus, and that's how I felt about Team Fuqua.
Yeah, I think a lot of business schools say they're collaborative, but it's different when it's actually true. I mean, what are they going to say? Oh, we're not a collaborative school? You really can't say that. And so I think the admissions committee does a good job at assessing fit of candidates and people who ultimately come here to make sure that they have at least a small sense of selflessness, because I feel like that's how Team Fuqua is able to be sustainable. So I think back to a personal story that I have of my seed lead, which are our small learning teams, about 6 to 7 people. And me and one of my seed lead team members decided that our top company was going to be the same one. And this top company doesn't have a lot of internship slots. And so that could have easily been a contentious situation. But instead, we both said, okay, if one of us gets it, like, that's good for the team. So we mocked each other, we cased each other. We both ended up with the internship. We were both going back full time, and it worked out. So, but I think that could have very much been a situation that could have been a negative one. But because the admissions committee did such a great job of selecting folks who are really about thinking about the greater good of the team, and again being selfless, that it turned out to be well.
I had, sorry, I'll jump back in. I had the exact same situation. It was me and another person. He's from DAFA. He's married, has kids. We're basically copies of each other, and we're both recruiting for the same firm in the same office, and we helped each other. And I remember playing foosball with him before going into the interviews, and really not. I've never felt a situation where I've been kind of in a chair looking at the person next to me, thinking like, we're both going for this and one of us is going to walk away, so and we both got the internship in Dallas. We're both going back full time, and so it's just a testament to there's a trust all around. And I had someone from kind of outside the organization say, like, aren't you worried it's another person, another veteran, they might just be looking for one? I said, no, I'm not worried about that. And I think that's a kind of sense of security that you don't get everywhere.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, I'll just add one more thing. So kind of similar to that, I think for me, like Team Fuqua, especially coming in first year, it's a lot of stuff going on. It seemed a little bit kind of stressful, but what I've really enjoyed about Fuqua is really like the pay it forward mentality. I think that people have both as kind of first years, from what you've heard from, Chuck and Ciera, but also as second years coming back, where you might think like, hey, you've got your full-time job offer, like time to really kick back and enjoy life for the next year. But what I've seen from myself and like everyone around me is that I think second years especially come back with such a mindset of thinking, how can we help first years through the process and make it easier for them than it was for us. So I think that's a really strong part of the Team Fuqua culture as well.
And I think that paying it forward is definitely there and supporting each other. And when I think about Team Fuqua, I also think about just respecting each other, which is a big part of the culture here, and it shows up in different ways. We have Fuqua norms in classrooms, so we don't have electronics. Like if you're supposed to be on time, if you do get there just a bit late, you're sitting in the back. Like they're just different things to understand that I'm part of this bigger team, and I respect you. I don't want to disrupt your learning experience. If we're in team rooms, when you leave those team rooms, people are erasing what they wrote on the board. Just really thinking about your other classmates and really showing respect in multiple ways, along with supporting people through career. So I think Team Fuqua shows up in multiple ways.
I think we all have our own anecdotes or stories to talk about Team Fuqua, and I think one for me, from the admissions perspective, is I attended a conference, an NSHMA conference, back in 2008, not too long after I started working at Fuqua. And when we go to these conferences, there are companies from all around the country that are looking to interview, MBA students on the spot. And I'll never forget, we had a booth there, and we work in conjunction with the Career Management Center. They send support to these conferences. And not only did they send support, but they had these big, huge containers in our booth that had like annual reports of companies or information about companies for the students to be able to read and research to know about, so that they could be prepared for those opportunities if they came about during that time. But what the most impressive thing to me was, as you mentioned, going into a space where you're getting ready to interview, and you know that one of your peers, one of your classmates, is also going to interview for the same thing, and seeing them come out of the interview and prep and help get the next person ready to go right in and do the exact same thing that they did. And for someone whom had been in our community for just a short period of time, and to see that interaction, that was very impressive to me. And to see it 9+ years remain the same and grow stronger, I think is evident of the authentic spirit that we have here in our program, and something that continues to resonate with me even as a staff member, and working with students on things like this, as well as to helping recruit and continue to build a culture at Fuqua that is something that is of extreme importance to us as we're going through as well. So we all have our Team Fuqua experiences that you'll never forget. They're just kind of a part of the experience. And as an admissions officer, that's why we talk about, it's not just about getting a degree, but it is truly about the experience and making sure that you're in the right place that'll give you what you need to grow professionally and personally as well. Stephen, I want to go back to something that you mentioned. You talked about being involved with CASE. And there are a lot of research centers here in our program, but there are a lot of things that you can do outside of the classroom that can help prepare you for the next step of your career, but also give you a valuable experience while you're here. You know, if any of you have a story that you can tell or something that you can share about outside of classroom involvement, can you share that with us or just talk about some of the things that have been impactful for you?
Yeah, sure. So I did mention CASE, and through the CASE Center here, Social Impact Center, they are, I feel like they're integrated with a lot of the curriculum and work that we do here. It's just not this separate center, but it really shows up throughout the university. And one way it does is through FCCP, which is the Fuqua Client Consulting Practicum. So if you're interested in going consulting or you just want that experience while you're at school, you're able to actually work with a consulting client through a problem that they're facing. And I was able to select a social impact client that's local here in Durham. And so I worked with KIPP Charter Schools of Eastern North Carolina. It was a really impactful and powerful experience for me. Just being able to give back to the local Durham community and also build my skill set. So we helped them through an HR transformation of their systems and really think about the future. And so they were scaling really quickly and thinking about how their strategy and systems kept up with the scale that they were bringing teachers aboard. And so you're able to see real life impact in the work that you're doing while you're still doing your MBA program. And that's kind of set up through CASE. And so they have those great relationships locally, but also internationally. So a lot of those social impact projects were international projects. So students were able to work with the clients via Skype, telephone calls, and then get to travel there and be in these foreign countries for an extended period of time and be on the ground and kind of see what how the nonprofit is actually functioning in their community and gain more insight about the solutions that they recommend by being there on the ground. So I think FCCP is a really great experience to participate in. If you're interested in social impact, if you're interested in consulting, there's just a ton of opportunity.
Yeah, I would echo FCCP as well. I'm a second-year fellow, so I'm even more involved in it this year and helping first years kind of figure out their FCCP journey. But I think some people certainly do it if they're interested in consulting. Others may be like me, where I just wanted to get my feet wet in the industry that I'm pivoting to. I don't know what percentage of folks that come to business school in general are career switchers. And so when I evaluated business schools, it was very important for me to go to a school that had a lot of experiential opportunities so that I could get acquainted with the industry as much as I could before I actually went off to my internship. And so FCCP was a great way to do that. I worked with a very large hospital organization on an issue that they were really grappling with. And then thinking about the healthcare industry in its entirety, it's actually pretty small. And so my connections at HCA led me to connections, at the company I interned with over the summer. And so I already had a built-in mentor that I connected with even before I went off. So it was a great networking opportunity as well. I would also make a plug in for GATE, which is an opportunity to study abroad through Fuqua. I did GATE South Africa, and it was fantastic. We learned about business in Africa, but then we also went on safaris and went on wine tours, and it was just a great opportunity to get to know Fuqua. To echo Stephen's sentiment, I certainly was concerned about class size when selecting business schools, so I didn't want to go somewhere that was massive, but I didn't necessarily want to go somewhere that was super small. I went to Ohio State for undergrad, so I'm used to being in a really large environment and like the idea of constantly being able to meet new people. school. So it was fun to go on this 2-week trip and meet a host of new people that I hadn't had the opportunity to interact with during my first year. There were talks of having a reunion at some point, and so we all got really close over that time, and it was a great opportunity. So definitely FCCP is great, and then GATE as well.
You touched on being at Ohio State, so being
Yeah.
in a hustle and bustle type
Yeah.
place, big campus, lots of folks around. One question that I get as an admissions person is, how is Durham? Because there's this idea, perhaps, that if you come to Durham, you might get stuck in Durham. Or just a concern about making the transition from going from big city life like a New York and LA to coming to a city that's not as big and robust. But I have to say I'm quite biased. I've been in Durham since 1985, so I've come to love the city, and I've seen it grow so much. So I understand the value of coming to Fuqua and being in a city such as Durham. But can you all talk about that? Did you ever have concerns about transitioning from where you were to Durham, and what helped to ease you over, and how have you made the best of your experience, like outside of Duke and Fuqua, but in living here in the city since, over the past almost 2 years now?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So I was coming from Charleston, South Carolina. So for me, it wasn't a big concern that I wouldn't kind of fit with Durham, or I wasn't coming from a large city. But for me, one of the things that made Fuqua really attractive actually was Durham. I think for me, I wanted to live in a place where a lot of students were coming specifically to Durham in order to go to school at Fuqua. So I live in an apartment building. There are 2 apartment buildings really that I think house maybe 70% of the students. So what I love about it is that if I'm walking to Harris Teeter, I'll see like 5 people I know and be able to catch up. And I think that speaks a lot to how close the community is here, that everyone wants to kind of live together and be close. And additionally, I think especially with Durham is that the cost of living is pretty nice too. I know friends moving from San Francisco or New York, I think Durham especially is a nice break from kind of the hustle and bustle of those larger cities, and a good place to really concentrate on school, like what you want to get out of these 2 years, what you want to give back, all of that. But one thing about being stuck in Durham, I would recommend you taking a look at where students graduating from Fuqua end up moving to. And for me, I was really impressed. I was coming from the Southeast, and I figured probably a lot of people ending up in Atlanta like me, or kind of sticking around that area. But I mean, it is very split between people going to the West Coast, New York, Chicago, Dallas. I mean, even like internationally as well. So such a wide split between where people end up going back out after Fuqua as well.
I'll echo that, Allison. One of the things I definitely looked at was employment reports. So you shouldn't be nervous that you're going to get stuck in Durham or even in the Southeast. It was an even spread around the United States and internationally, and like that really impressed me. That the prestige and the alumni network can take you wherever. And that was something that really helped me make my decision. I tell people who are nervous maybe about coming to Durham is like, it's not New York City, and like you kind of don't want it to be. Like these are 2 years that you're here to build these relationships and focus on your academics. And if you put yourself in that mind frame and then actually spend time and look at what Durham has to offer, it has great outdoor activities, it has great restaurants and breweries. There's a lot to do, and you're also here with classmates that are really eager to get to know you and to share their culture and experience with you. So you're never not busy. There's always some affinity group or club that's having some event sharing their traditional holiday. There's always some thing to do, and you're typically overbooked.
Yeah.
So you're never going to be sitting in Durham twiddling your thumbs.
Yeah.
You're definitely going to be busy with tons of activities from all over the world.
Awesome. And it's not as expensive to live in Durham as it is in some other places as well. So I know that's attractive to a lot of people. There's still a good quality of life and ways for you to get to those interviews on the West Coast and up north, south and internationally as well, having an international airport here. So don't be afraid. of Durham. We might be biased, but we believe that it is a great place and can definitely offer a lot of opportunities for you to connect with your peers and your classmates in a different way than if you were in a larger city that allows for a bit more outside distraction. And you just want to make the best out of the 2 years that you're there. We used to say that your MBA experience can be the best 2 years of your life or the worst 2 years of your life. And with all of the investment that you're putting in, you definitely want it to be the best. So just make sure that location is equally as important, as the program and the curriculum and the people as well. So one of the things that an MBA does, it teaches you about change, because change in global business is inevitable. And change in your career will happen at some point as well, and just personal and professional growth. When you think about the opportunities that are available to you guys at Fuqua, how does it help prepare you for change?
I mean, from my background, everything is new, right? It's all changed. I think that one of the great things about being here is how much I've learned from classmates, and that that whatever I want to know, whether it's the other day it was I didn't know how privatization of electricity worked. Like in Texas, you have private electrical companies. I have no idea how that, but I have a classmate that worked in that before, and I can go and find out the answers. And so just kind of having that almost in your back pocket of, if I don't know what it is, I know someone who does, and I can find that person, is something that Fuqua's provided to me that I thought has prepared me for change. And I think that one of the measures of that is how well Fuqua students do in consulting recruiting, in that none of those jobs are you show up and here's what you're going to do for the next 2 years. It's daily recalibrating and changing what you're thinking about and what kind of problems you're solving. And so I think those are both are really good indicators that Fuqua is a great place to learn to adapt to change and kind of have the resources available to be successful in that.
Okay, very good. And then I think the last question that I have before we see what other questions that they've submitted is, what advice do you have for prospective students on ways for them to make the best out of their MBA experience?
I would say that preparation is really key and just thinking ahead. I think the MBA process is a really great process to self-reflect, and it's just not applying for school and getting into school. It's a very transformational experience. So to spend that time, even when you're doing your application, what do I really care about? Where do I really want to be short-term and long-term, and be really authentic about that? Because I think that can help you discover things about yourself that typically people don't take this time to reflect, and you can use this application process as a time to do that. And so if you're really authentic about that through the application process, you have an idea of what you want to do when you're on campus. There's so much that happens at Fuqua and so much opportunity that you kind of don't want to get lost in that. So if you have some sense of plan, I think it helps you navigate the myriad of opportunities that exist. And you should definitely not close the door to certain opportunities, but know, I've really spent the time thinking about what I want, and I know this isn't it, but I'm open to these other possibilities. And I feel like you could really be overwhelmed if you don't take that time and reflect and consider what you really want out of your MBA experience and future career and just broader life.
Yeah, I think, just to echo that and add a little bit, I think it's really important to think about, one, who do you want to be at the end of the 2 years, and what do you want to know? And I think, with Fuqua, the fall 1, fall 2, and then operations, so 9 classes really that you have to go to. And then kind of beyond that, it's whatever you want to pursue and work on is within your control. So if you want to take, you want to be very specific in finance and do a concentration, you can do that. If you want to get a very broad experience, you can do that as well. And then with the clubs, you can be in no clubs, you can be in all the clubs, So I think it's very important before you enter to have a very clear strategy of who do I want to be in 2 years, and that can kind of help you to guide your decisions along the way.
Awesome. We do have one question from someone who has joined the session today, and I know that you all are not international as it pertains to relocating from another country, but you've had the opportunity to engage with some of your classmates that are internationally based. And the question is, can the panel speak on resources and or support programs available at Fuqua to help international students transition into the U.S. culture and in general, and also at Fuqua? So you may not be able to answer that question in detail, but do you know of any stories or anecdotes of some of your peers that are international students that have been able to use resources available to them in the program to kind of make an easier transition into?
Yeah, I can speak to that from at least the kind of career and consulting club standpoint. So new this year, the consulting club really, there was a few students who took the initiative to plan these different programs, especially around kind of like networking and all the different aspects that go into recruiting for consulting, which is very relationships based. Like you're getting to know all these different people, different firms. So there was, I guess it was a 3-hour-long event where maybe 15 different second years came in to lead talks about and do different kind of examples of how to manage like large groups. We call them SIP circles, different recruiting events, how to do informational calls, the best ways to, even things like how to word emails, things like that may seem intuitive to some domestic students, but for some international students, very different way of getting jobs like here in the U.S. So even talking to, I helped out with that event, and even talking with some of the international students that maybe there were between 60 and 80 people there. Even talking to some students afterwards, they were just saying how helpful that was and how it was nice to have that at the very beginning of the process before they started getting into all these events. So that's just one example of how I think especially students take initiative to find ways to improve how things have been done to make sure that especially international students are able to feel comfortable with recruiting processes, especially if they want to stay here in the United States.
And there's an international boot camp as well that I think happens before orientation. So a lot of international students come to that and have already formed relationships before the greater portion of us come for orientation. Thinking about FCCP, 2 of my teams, I had dinner with them yesterday, and they all happen to be teams where the majority of them are international students. One is totally of international students, and they all knew each other already. There was little formal introductions. It was a very easy dinner. We all had a great time, but I just think that speaks to how close-knit the international population is here. And I think a huge part of it was to kick it off with that international boot camp. And I think the international boot camp covers a host of things. I remember a lot of international students also do the health sector management program, which I'm in. And so I remember having a conversation with a few people on my smaller group team, and they said that during boot camp they went over simple things like American sports, which is often a conversation starter for a lot of networking opportunities. So it sounds as if they've covered the full gamut during that boot camp.
And I'll also say that there are a number of different groups that we start to help students acclimate and get to know their classmates before they even get here. And there'll be groups that will start like chat groups and like WhatsApp and GroupMe and all these other things to kind of help you get to know whom you're coming in with, your future classmates, but also learn who's here now because they can be valuable resources for you and connections, especially if you're thinking about certain apartment communities or certain areas of focus and just wanting to make the best out of the transition as much as possible. So we talk a lot about that.
Sorry, I just want to jump in with, it's kind of strange because like even the people that you're applying with will help you, right? Like it's kind of selected for the Team Fuqua kind of spirit already. And with DAFA specifically, we had a GroupMe chat that was going, and one of my classmates, Kevin, was still in Saudi Arabia on an assignment and said, "Hey, does anything know anything about this neighborhood in Durham? We're looking at a house." And one of the other members of the DAFA group was already here, drove to the house, and like took pictures all around, like sent him all this information. Awesome. He didn't end up buying the house even, but just like people are willing to do whatever. Like almost immediately after all the third round had kind of gone through, there was like a spreadsheet open for who needs help moving their stuff into apartments and who can help them out, and it was just, I think that there's an incredible amount of help kind of at your fingertips, whether you're international or otherwise, just from the other people that are going to enter the program and that are already there.
Awesome. We've asked a lot of questions of you guys from some of the attendees as well as just some of the questions for our panelists. And just as we're bringing this session to a close, I definitely want to thank you all for attending today and providing your insight. One thing that I would like to ask in conclusion is we talked about networking, but also just want to speak very briefly on the importance of the alumni network and how valuable that they have been to you all in your MBA experience. As a counselor, I always tell people to look at it from the perspectives view, the current student view, and then the alumni view, which you all will be very soon. But can you just talk a little bit about the importance of the alumni network and how that has been of value to you during the 2 years that you've been here?
Yeah, the alumni network is huge. I mean, I think Stephen alluded to it earlier, speaking about Minority Workshop. I had the opportunity to visit all 5 of the schools that I applied to. And so that was by far the most alums that I had seen at any school. I think our year there were like 70 plus. This past year there was over 100 for the 35th anniversary. And so the alums made it clear that we came back to this weekend for you guys. There were no other events going on. We came back here to show our commitment to Fuqua and show you all the reasons why you should come here. And the alums, even at that point, were like, hey, if you send me your resume and your essays, I'll review it for you. And I'm like, I don't even go here yet, and you're already helping me out. So I think seeing how engaged the alumni were for perspectives who are interested in Fuqua, I could only imagine the level of engagement they would have when I actually came here, and that was definitely evident.
And I believe career-wise as well, my personal experience has been great with Fuqua alumni within the firm I'm going to. Them coming back to campus and helping with recruiting, offering up their time to case interview me, to kind of tell me about kind of strategies for application. And even when over this summer during my internship at Accenture Strategy, some of the most highest managing directors were Fuqua alum, and they would set up separate times to talk to the Fuqua interns, and if there was anything that we would need. And we had regular phone calls with them. And these were MDs that when I told them I was having these conversations, other people were surprised. Yeah, how'd you get it on her calendar? And that all came from just the Fuqua alumni network. So you could think about it, through your recruiting process, and definitely post MBA, that Fuqua network is strong.
I think that is a great way to just kind of bring everything to a close and helping our attendees to understand that the Team Fuqua concept and that the value of it goes beyond just the 2 years that you're here, but it truly reaches no bounds. And having about 100 alumni return a couple of weeks ago for the workshop, and having alumni, ready and waiting to assist through the job search process and the interview process, knowing that we have alumni that come back to campus to help with recruiting and doing interviews, and that they're really available at your fingertips, goes to show that they value their experience so much that they want to then give that back and help contribute in some way, shape, or form. Well, we thank you all again for serving as panelists and providing your insight and representing your respective organizations. Thank you so much. And thank you to each of you that have joined us today. We do hope that this information was helpful and informative for you all. If you are still in the process of determining whether to hit submit on your application, you still have some time, and we hope that the information that we provided today will help you to confirm that you are indeed ready to apply to the Fuqua School of Business. We have an upcoming application deadline date, which is January 3rd for round 2. And in case you still need some additional application tips, we have another virtual session coming up on December 19th, where you have the opportunity to pick the brains of a few members of the admissions committee and get some helpful insights and learn more about ways to submit a competitive application. But again, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to connecting with you again soon.